Who's under the most pressure in Game 4, homie?
It's pressure tonight for Money Green. It's pressure tonight for Draymond. Who is Draymond Green? Draymond Green is maybe the best defender of this generation, this era, if you will. Who is Draymond Green? Draymond Green is definitely a Hall of Famer, but it's time to be honest. Draymond Green is getting into the Hall of Fame, which he will eventually, on a buddy pass. So Draymond Green is under pressure tonight because now all eyes are on you, Draymond. Who is Draymond Green? We've all been here before, so you all visualize this situation. It may happen to you tonight. Draymond Green is the person that gets into the club behind his homeboy or behind his homegirl. You know when you getting into the club and that one person grips your bicep as you navigate past the crowd? They grip your bicep to stay in close enough because they know you getting in and they trying to get into to make sure they do not get stopped. The person that's gripping your bicep ain't got to do no work. They ain't got to talk to the bouncer. They ain't got to talk to the party promoter. They ain't got to talk to the owner. They are just with you, and so they getting into the club. Draymond Green is getting into the hall, but he's getting in on a buddy pass. Now, the reason the pressure is on him tonight, because Draymond is officially walking into the club or walking into Game 4 first. Now, Draymond Green got to talk to the bouncer at the door because all eyes are on Draymond based upon his performance in Game 3 and based upon all of the notoriety he's gotten leading up to the series. Slick Rick, we say it all the time. You can't call for attention and hang up. Draymond Green has called for attention. Marcellus Wiley has said that. Draymond Green has called for attention, and now everybody's picked up. All eyes are on him. Draymond, can you get the Warriors into the club on your own fruition? Can you get the Warriors into the club, or really get them through Game 4, Draymond Green? It's no longer time to enter in on Steph Curry's dime, enter in on Klay Thompson's dime, enter in on Steve Kerr's dime. All eyes are on Draymond Green. The podcast might be the Draymond Green show, but tonight, Game 4, it needs to be the Draymond Green show. It's on you, Slick. Come on, Slick. Let's get it.
Heller said Wiley.
Oh, it looks like we taping. Okay. Heller said Wiley. Well, then I'm Wiley. Let's go. It's not Draymond Green. We got to start at the top of this mountain. Can we please call this what this is? Steph Curry understands. Steph Curry knows. He's the one who's getting his bicep grabbed as he's trying to get into this club because he knows the pressure is on him. Why is it on Steph Curry? Because of all of the top players of all time, Steph Curry seems like he is under the most criticism, at least of late. Why? Because people don't know exactly where they should position Steph Curry. Some people are trying to prop him up and put him in the top 10. Why? Because he's the best shooter of all time. But then some people have him lower in the teens, maybe even just top 20, because Steph Curry, what have you really done on your own? And that's what's going to come in this conversation. We know he won the first championship, correct? And he won that without KD, so that's a notch for Steph Curry. Except when you further analyze that championship, you realize, Steph, you beat up on a team that had LeBron James, and then who was the second best player? Matthew Dellavedova? No Kevin Love? And we only saw Kyrie for one game. So, Steph, don't walk around with the flex on that championship like all others. Then, of course, KD comes and KD's finals MVP, blah, blah, blah. So Steph was like, look, I helped build this thing. Y'all ain't give me my full props. Now I've rebuilt this thing. Now look at us. We're the favorites. We're going against the Boston Celtics with a first-year head coach with young players that have never been on this stage before. I'm the experienced one. I'm the all-time great. They don't even have a top 75 player. It's my time to oh, my God. Are we down in this series? Potentially down 1-3? Anybody got KD's number? Oh, that ain't going to help. That ain't going to happen. So now all of that pressure is on Steph Curry. To your example, Acho, I've been that guy before. Like, I'm standing there. I know I'm going to get in, but damn it, I brought all my boys. I brought Draymond. There's pressure on you because you got to flex so much that you got to get them in as well. Draymond is suffering in part because Steph and Klay are not doing the same as Steph and Clay of old.
Whoa.
And
That's
that's
a lie.
where Draymond is grabbing that bicep and he's trying to get in on that club
You
pass
know,
with them.
hey, Slick, I need you to back me up here, but you know Steph and Clay look just as good getting into the club as always. 31 and
Really?
25.
That's one game.
But that's the same game.
That's one game.
That's the same game in which Draymond Green had a career low performance. Slick, it's all you, but I just had to get that in there.
Get that.
I appreciate you getting that in, and I am with you to a certain extent. Acho, by the way, if I never hear about KD's toe or Matthew Dellavedova again, it will be too soon. That said, I am with you that the most pressure is on Draymond Green without question. I just don't like why you said there's the most pressure
Talk to
on
me.
him.
I'm all
And
ears.
part of that being that he hasn't earned his stripes yet, as if all that he's done in the previous championships hasn't earned him the honor of being put in the Hall of Fame or his part in those championship rings. It's not as if he has something to prove now in order to justify his previous association with Clay and Steph and being a champion. It's the other part, and you did reference it. Much of this pressure has been self-induced because he has put himself out there. And if you've listened closely, he really hasn't given the Celtics a whole lot of credit. He said they're good, but the reason that they've lost, the Warriors have lost, is because Draymond Green, didn't play with enough force, that he played soft, and has made it sound as if this is all a matter of whether he plays well or not. And that's going to be the determining factor here in terms of whether they win. And the truth of the matter is, he hasn't just had one bad game. People are looking at game 3, and certainly that was not what we expect of Draymond Green. But game 1 was barely better than that. Have rebounded well, but as far as his offense, wasn't contributing at that end. So you take that, and you take then his defense of his podcast when asked about it by the media. And I dare say he defended the podcast more strongly than he did the basket when they played in game 3.
Good point.
And that's why in game 4, he is in the crosshairs more than anybody else. I don't really understand, though, Marcellus or Acho, you guys are talking about both Draymond and Steph as if they still have something to prove.
Oh, no, sir.
And I don't believe that's the case in either one, particularly when it comes to this series.
Yeah, I do.
No. Marcellus is saying that Steph Curry has to somehow justify that he's been put in this special circle. And Acho, you're saying that Draymond Green has to justify that he's been recognized as a member of a championship, a contributing factor to a championship team. I don't see it as being that. I'm not taking anything away from their priors to suggest that if they don't beat the Celtics or they don't perform to a certain level in this series, that it denigrates or dismisses everything that they've done prior to this. This is a separate situation, and this is a different team. So I can't give you all that, but if I'm going to side with one or the other, Emmy, I'm with you. Draymond Green is in the crosshairs tonight.
My dog, Slick. Here's why I think Draymond is under so much pressure, because he's made his living off being a loudmouth. And it's been a phenomenal living, $100 million contract, of which he will remind everybody at his post-game pressers. I make $100 million. What's a fine to me? So Draymond Green makes a living off being a loudmouth. Here's the thing. You can only truly be a loudmouth when you win, because otherwise you're just loud and irritating. Keep in mind, there are going to be a lot of parallels if Draymond does not win right now to sell what happened last year with Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri Richardson, track and field, was dominating, and she was loud and proud. But then she was loud and last. And it's a big difference between being loud and proud and being loud and last. If the Warriors do not handle business, in part because of Draymond, now Slick, Draymond just loud. The reason Draymond, I think, has to prove something, and I'm just going to make the small point, hopefully we have time to elaborate on it, maybe not. The reason Draymond has to prove something is this. He's gotten in to the hall. He's gotten into conversations of all-time defensive greatness because of who he rolls with. You are the company you keep. He rolls with Steve Kerr, one of the greatest coaches of the generation. Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters in history. Steph Curry, the greatest shooter in history. So he's gotten so much of a pass because of who he's rolled with. Now, though, the eyes are on him. Oh, Slick, go ahead. I see you chomping at the bit.
But you just described him as the best defensive player of his era. So he's earned his priors as well.
Yeah.
It's not as if he was loud and winning. It sounds like, oh, he was along for the ride. No, he was a huge contributing factor. And I will say that he needs to deliver that, because if there's a deficit, if there's a place where the Warriors have not delivered in this series, it has been at the defensive end. The two losses, Celtics shot either 50% or close to. And so that's where he contributes the most. But it just sounds a little bit like you're saying he was just loud and he was part of this winning formula, and that's why we allowed him to be who he is. No, he contributed to that winning in a significant way. He deserves as much recognition for the winning of the Warriors in previous finals as anybody else. And that's where you and I differ. It's not as if he has to live up to or make up for having won on the backs of Steph and Clay previously, and now it's Draymond's turn to deliver it. No, he delivered then, and if he doesn't deliver now, they're going to lose. But I'm not going to separate the two.
You know what, Slick? On paper, what you said is exactly correct. Exactly right.
That's a real life.
But in real life, in reality, it's not. You want to know why people are picking out Draymond, the 7-time all-defensive team Draymond, the guy, like you said, who's already bona fide, a champion? Why are we still picking at Draymond? Because people still question who Draymond is. He went along for that ride, and some people will say, how overrated is Draymond? Imagine Draymond Green just goes to a team with great shooters, not the best shooters of all time, just great shooters, or just average shooters. People have these conversations about Draymond. You want to know why? Because they don't see it from Draymond specifically. So whenever Draymond slips, whenever he drops the ball just one time, they pounce on him. They pounce on him and say, that's what we talking about. Who are you, Draymond? But I don't even think that it stops there. Here's Steph Curry, who should be protected. Security is different than just being somewhere. Like, you could be somewhere but not secure. You know about balance. You could be somewhere but out of balance. Steph Curry is a top 20 all-time player, but he's not in proper balance, because right now, here's the conversation swirling. Steph Curry, you could win Finals MVP and no championship from it. Oh, before, all you would do is win championships and no Finals MVP. So now, Steph Curry, you were the leader of the only team in NBA history up 3-1 and lost that championship. Oh, and the one championship you got was against the Steph stopper in Dellavedova. Oh, it wasn't about KD and you. KD wasn't better than you, you just deferred. Well, then where your championships at? Without KD against a bona fide opponent. This is where everyone is circling their criticism. Draymond, yeah, but it doesn't stop with Draymond. That's why, to me, there's pressure on Steph Curry to get this monkey off his back, finally say, I did it, and I did it against a real opponent, and I did it as the leader.